Okay. Well, it's my great pleasure today to introduce Naveen Rabelli, who in his Project Tejas drove an auto all the way from Bangalore to London. I forget the exact year, Naveen. Could you just remind me the year you
It's an old story now. In 2016.
in 2016? And I had the pleasure to present Naveen in London as part of the Earth Lab project at the University of Westminster Centre for Arts and Media. And he was more freshly from the rickshaw at that point. Now I understand that Naveen is continuing to develop solar power in vehicles here in Europe. And we'd like to hear about your story coming across from India to London with the solar powered rickshaw. And also we're very interested in to know about how you feel about the future of powering vehicles of all sorts with solar power. So Naveen, are you going to show us anything or are you just going to speak?
No, I have a few things prepared up. I have a video. Hi, everyone. Thank you, firstly, to Rob and the team, Shisti team, to invite me. Yeah, it's quite a pleasure, I think, for me to be talking to the young group who are inspired and who are looking for changes in Bangalore. I also lived in Bangalore for 4 years now, around 2012 to 2016. And that's when this idea came in. I was working with Reva, Mahindra Reva, it's called, as an electrical engineer there. And yeah, I have one correction to Rob, what he said. Yes, I came to Europe to work in a solar powered vehicles. Recently, I quit. I don't do that anymore. And I will tell you the reasons in this presentation as well. So let's see, how can I share my screen?
I'm going to just make you a co-host really quick.
Okay.
So give me 1 second. And then you should be able to share your screen.
Okay. And the whole idea of my speech today or my talk, I would like to have it more bilateral. So at first I would start with my story and the inspiration, because I think it's also not just the engineering part of you. My tuk-tuk story is also a bit more art. I would like to art and design. So it's a combination I would like to call. Um, and then I would like to get into a bit of technical details, because not technical on a higher level, more or less like how how did I perceive a project and break it down, an engineering project, and how did I go stage by stage. Um, and yeah, and then I would like to have like a Q&A, but if you also want to jump in and ask some questions, you're more than welcome to ask. Is it fine for everyone?
That sounds great. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just say, Naveen, that the other thing about your journey is that it's had a lot of spin-offs and inspired a lot of people because it got a lot of media coverage, particularly BBC and different things. So it's not just one journey. It's kind of like a catalyst for a whole change of thinking. That's in my view, but we can go into that further.
Sure, definitely. Okay, I can share my screen now. Okay, good.
You should be able to do that.
Okay, cool. Oh, sorry, not this one. Now, okay, I would like to start with a small video that I found, and it just gives an introduction of how did it start. Is it okay?
See you when, yeah.
Okay. So it's an 8-minute video. It just talks about how the idea of
We can't hear the sound. I
Sorry.
think, you know, what situation is that you have your headphones on and your sound is coming out of your computer. So you might have to pull the headphones out of the headphone jack for the duration of the video.
Did that. Cool. Rabelli, I want to travel from India to UK in my modified solar electric tuk-tuk. It was 2 years ago. I was traveling. I was taking a friend of mine to a kite festival. We were stuck up in traffic, and suddenly we noticed that there are umpteen number of tuk-tuks that make loud noises. And just a thought came out that why can't we convert these tuk-tuks into a solar or electric? And yeah, we just went straight back to the bar and we started doing some sketches, and that's how it started. I thought the best vehicle would be a tuk-tuk, which is Indian, is the icon of India, and even better would be a solar electric tuk-tuk, which won't be dependent on any fuel, and it is zero emission. It took me 2 years to make this vehicle, and in those 2 years I've realized the importance of sustainable living. With this project, we try to create awareness among the people that it is possible for us to start thinking on sustainable e-mobility solutions. Tejas means radiance in Sanskrit. This vehicle runs on the sun's radiance, and we want this project to be a prototype where we can scale it up, and it could be the radiance for the future models. With this project, we want to try that a person like me sitting in a garage with not many tools and resources could think of such a project, and it is purely made in India. It was originally a Piaggo Ape vehicle. I modified it into a solar electric tuk-tuk. We made sure that performance specifications will remain the same as the original tuk-tuk. So the power of the motor and the top speed, load capacity, we tried to achieve the same as a Piaggo Ape. The power is 5 kilowatt, and the top speed is 40 kilometers per hour. It gives about 85 kilometers per charge, and it can take up to 500 kilos of load. There were times that we didn't have power, the grid power, so we used to have small lamps, and we used to work the whole night. So the conditions were really challenging. So we don't have any jacks. We used to put stones and use our power to lift it up sometimes, or for painting especially. We don't have any closed rooms, so we used to paint outside, and whenever it rained, I had to push the vehicle inside the room. And I think it's somehow everything got done. During my test rides in Bangalore, I've had a really positive experience, positive feedback from all the people that I met. People have appreciated, and people can see that how important this solution can be in their lives. It is quite important for us to create awareness, because whenever I ride my vehicle around, it is people's lack of perception that such a solar vehicle can be made possible. I think that's the first mind block that we need to address, to clear off that a solar-powered vehicle cannot run as efficiently as a conventional fueled vehicle. So that's what we're going to do in this trip. We started in Bangalore, all the way up to London, crossing 10 countries and doing 10,000 kilometers. And we plan to do it in 100 days. Raul Kopaka from Austria, he'll be joining me in my trip, who is independent filmmaker. Yeah, he will be traveling with me. It will be quite challenging for both of us to fit in this tuk-tuk and to travel 10,000 kilometers. But I think that's the whole part of the journey, to understand the problems and to make flexible solutions. During this journey from Bangalore to London, I would be connecting all these people who are working towards sustainable solutions.
So that was a video that I made. It was after 2 years, like I said in the video. It was my first prototype, which was running. And after this video was also used for my fundraising and my marketing campaigns. So any questions? Anyone?
Yeah, I'd like to start off and ask you, Naveen. One of the things I mentioned was that when you did the journey, that you had to sometimes stop off in villages to charge up because there wasn't enough sun, and that increased the social element of your journey. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. Basically, I have some. So what I wanted to show you is this one here. I don't know if you can see it. Can you meet? Yeah. The challenges of my tuk-tuk, electric tuk-tuk, is the first thing is the range. The range, it depends on the battery pack, and yeah, as you know, and I can get up to 85 kilometers per one charge. And that is about 3 hours of electric charging. And then also on top, I need to charge with solar a bit. So so it gives me about 85, and then includes these hills. Yeah. My challenge was when I'm traveling from, imagine you're traveling 10,000 kilometers in different countries, and then every 60 kilometers, you're dependent on people. You're dependent on charging points. You're dependent on the sun. So this gave me a chance to actually interact with people, to know a lot of cultures, and I saw this whole journey from from Bangalore all the way to London. Every 80 kilometers, it just changed my perception of the whole what do you call landscape. From, it's a huge one, 10,000 kilometers divided by 80. And during this phase, during this journey, there are lots of places, few places in Iran, and there was no electric. I mean, there's no one in for 200 kilometers in the region of Fars. There are more. It's just about deserts, camels, and shepherds. And thanks to my planning, which was not so great, I ended up in this one of these deserts. And yeah, and it is also, I was quite lucky that I had these solar panels, which gives me purely on solar. It helped me. It goes to takes me about 4 or 5 hours to go 40 kilometers. So it's about, yeah, let's say in the same 3 hours, go half the distance or 1/3 the distance.
So you had some parts where you couldn't get access to mains power, so you had to just do it with solar because you were in the desert. Is that correct?
Exactly. And also at places like India, where people have not heard electricity, and here I am asking for charging my vehicle, my fancy vehicle. And yeah, there were some pockets in Maharashtra. I had to purely charge my tuk-tuk with solar.
So because you mean, yeah, people couldn't afford to give you electricity in some places.
That also sometimes happens, that people can't afford because they don't have it. So,
and I think one of the most enduring images of your journey is the picture of you sitting in the tuk-tuk towards the end, and you can see all the souvenirs of the voyage, and people have done little drawings in the interior of the tuk-tuk. I'd like you to talk a little bit about, the fact that it almost became like a traveling museum, in a sense, of people's memories. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, I'll just pull this picture. I just, thanks to you, I just saw this picture today, and I just got my memories back. I think you introduced me here. So the whole idea for me, I had some friends from who are from art.
I have the image if you want it. And I can't do it because it's on your screen.
I thought I had somewhere. Maybe. Yeah.
Actually, Yash, I sent you that image I'm talking about last night. Yeah.
Rob, I just gave you screen sharing access.
No, okay, this one. I think he's found it. This is the image I'm talking about. Yeah, so you can see all this incredible interior of the tuk-tuk, and people are writing, and there are all kinds of stuff there. So can you tell us a little bit about the story, some of the stories we can see?
Sure. So basic idea from my friends in Bangalore was to keep it inside, completely white, and for us to have these impressions from different parts of the world. And so it started, like, in the background you can see this Maharashtra symbol, some people, and on the right side here you can see that someone thinks that I'm more like Abdul Kalam, Dr. Abdul Kalam. And you can see some kids paintings here. A lot of souvenirs people give me. I think it's a lot of love what I got from people, and for a lot of people it's also quite a impressive ideology to think that this can happen. And if you randomly, if I go into a village, an unknown village, an untouristic village, where not many people go, and there they see this tuk-tuk, a colorful tuk-tuk, and the story is this person is passing through their village. It just makes them feel very proud, and they feel some essence, and and this is the whole collection of their feelings actually for me. Most of them are best wishes, and some actually I really like this Farsi. I don't remember. I don't exactly know how it is said in this Farsi. It's a calligraphy done, which means that it's shairi from poet Sadi, and it says that they're on this journey. There are plenty of obstacles, but there's always, don't forget that people are always there with you, something like this. And it's really nice of him to write this. Yeah. What else can I show you here?
Yeah, just to ask again, Naveen, did you get any difference in the reception of the places you passed through, or the villages between Asia and once you arrived in Europe? Was there a difference in your reception?
Yes, in different ways it was, and more, but at the same time it was similar as well. It is like a different and similar. I can't just say it's different. How different it was, because I think in Europe, this technology, the tuk-tuk I made was in 2016. By that time, it was quite known for them that this can be possible, I think that was a major difference. And in Asia, so it was not so huge or spectacular thing back then. But in Asia, it was not the case. Asia, it was someone has not done this, and it's a long journey, and all this. So technologically, one big question, a difference. Yeah, and reception, yes, the culture itself was quite different. How they see me and how they perceive me is quite different.
Could you give me some examples?
For example, this is now I live in Germany, Munich. The moment I went from Asia to Balkans and to Germany, I entered Asia and Balkans. I had no problem in finding people and having an interaction with people. It was just I used to connect so easily. The moment I entered Europe, it was quite a challenge, because I think the culture here is a bit closed in terms of they don't go out of their way to talk to a new stranger. So that was a huge difference for me, and yeah, it's very interesting as well.
I mean, I've got lots of questions, but I don't want to stop you if you're carrying on with your presentation.
Yes, I will just, if anyone else has any questions, what I will do is I'll just go a few more minutes to make a small technical presentation, how I did. So, and then we can start again. Yeah?
Yep, sure.
So the most important thing, I'm an engineer. I was working in automotive. Currently, I work as an engineer in Hilti machines, which are power tools. More or less, it's a battery and a motor, but they don't move. The tools don't move. Here, I was earlier working with mobility solutions. Most important thing for me, if you start any project, is understanding the specifications of the project itself, or the product itself. And you have to write it down. For example, in this tuk-tuk, what do you want to achieve, or what your product should do. You want a range of 100 kilometers. Of course, you don't achieve all of them based on budget and timing and technology, but it's nothing wrong to start with this list of things that you want to achieve with this. How much, for example, here I have, can you see my screen? Is it too small?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. I have range, I have capacity, I have the volume and the weight, and I want to see if I want to do it in a city, or if I have which kind of terrain I want to do, and what's the maximum speed I want to achieve, and charging time. And yeah, these are the specifications that you need to pin it down first. And then comes, you need to break down this whole project into different segments. This is just engineering part of this project, like Rob mentioned before. Apart from engineering, I have we had what do you call, like PR and marketing, fundraising, finance, and it also has more or less like a yeah, PR, marketing, and finance. I would, yeah, these three things, and plus engineering. So you have to break it down. And once in engineering itself, we have you have mechanical parts to do. Like for example, gearbox, and body making, the complete body. So you have to find suppliers. You have to, if you break it down, the easiest thing is you can actually solve this problem by an expert, and it's easier, and it's more efficient, I think. And if you go to electrical, you have this lights, you have this fuses, all the running cables. And then you go into electronics, you have this sensors, different kind of instrumentation. Then on top of it is always software. We are driven by a software world, and there's definitely a lot of softwares and controls that go into it. And yeah, and then aesthetics, which was quite important for me as well. The art, I wanted this to represent a unique story. It was a lot of ideas we came. I just didn't want to give my space to any sponsor to put their logos on it. It was intended to be clean and represent our ideas, which was build, travel, and inspire. In our tuk-tuk, actually, if you see on one side, we have the art was made by an artist from Divij from Bangalore. He used a Kerala artwork, mural art form, where they show a complete story in one picture. So that was his concept, and we used build, travel, and inspire. And next, some of the slides I can show you how it was portrayed. And we wanted to have this. This is a very fundamental, and this is us. This group of people, this is us. And I didn't want any company to hijack this essence from us. That's quite important. And coming back, I also have this. And then once you make these different layers, we have to have most important thing is the testing, which completes the loop. And I also put this small making of stages. Basically, here is understanding a problem, writing your specifications, trying to do some planning and sourcing, and trying to understand some current trends. Maybe it would have been easier if I bought electric tuk-tuk from some company, some other country like China or somewhere. It's cheaper, and I can, yeah, but that was not the point, no, for me. So this kind of current trends, you have to see. I mean, this is R&D. I would call it more research and development. This is the most crucial stage.
To ask you on that question, that this is like manufacturer versus DIY. So obviously, there's a big issue that, say in India, really hardly anyone has converted their autos. And yes, in China, they are making electric autos. So what are the chances, my question is of anyone being able to do this conversion? Because it seems to me that if people have invested in buying an auto, then they're not going to just throw it away or getting an electric one, even if there was one available on the market. But surely there's a possibility of being able to convert what they had already using some of your techniques. Is that possible?
Definitely. Back in 2014, 12, when I was doing it, was unheard, and it was quite challenging for me to get government regulations. There was no regulations about conversions of these vehicles, such vehicles. It was quite hard work to get an approval for my tuk-tuk to be on the street. Now, so I partnered with some people in Bangalore, or I was a consultant. Now they have finally, in 2018, they found a way to convince the government, and now they are readily available kits. So anyone can have an old vehicle, and then they can use approved, government approved kits, and they can go to a professional installer and they can convert into electric. And that's now is possible. Yeah.
It would seem though that there seems to be more like things like your journey. I mean, there needs to be more incentive for people to use these kits, because the noise pollution and air pollution is a problem of the state of an emergency. And it just seems to me that you're a voice in the wilderness here, and people should be converting their autos. I mean, this should be being done on a national scale, but it's not really, as far as I can see.
Yeah, it's an interesting talk, and I think this kind of talks, it's important to have this kind of talks as well. But because I see that in 2012 when I started, there was no awareness. In 2016 when I finished, there was already people, there was mass rolling forward. And now in 2020, it's still not up to the level where it can have a huge impact, but I see that this is changing. It's definitely changing, and there are a lot of challenges around it which we have to think. So okay, first challenge is, for example, a very simple thing is going everyone to electric. How will the load, if everyone is charging their tuk-tuks, or in India, in Bangalore, how will the government provide this much of electricity? So these are the things that are surrounded by this issue of electrification of vehicles. And yeah, so I would say incentive is, we just have to, I think I'm more positive that it will change.
I mean, yesterday we had a meeting with somebody who is involved in trying to get things changed in Bangalore, a campaigner, Adijit. And he talked about, very interestingly, about this issue of, or this issue that you talk about when you come across this boy who wanted a Lamborghini, but now he wants a solar tuk-tuk. Yeah. This aspiration, so he talked about the aspirational loop, the problem of that basically aspirationally poor people might start off with a bicycle, then they would get to a scooter, then finally a car. And then when they become middle class, they might want to ride a bike again. But it's like the problem of breaking down that aspirational loop. And again, your project seems to be a catalyst for trying to do that. I mean, could you tell us about the Lamborghini? Because I think that's very interesting.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic. Wait a second, I think I have a picture of this person. Yeah, so when I was I used to do a lot of speeches in schools, and there was one idea to go to schools to inspire the young students. And one of them in a school in Delhi, it was quite a rich school, let's say like this, where the kids from rich families, they come. And after hearing my story and my inspiration, my motivation, one of the kids one of the kid's father came to me and he said, "Thanks, Naveen, you made a big impact." And I asked him, please, can you explain me? And he said that his son till now wants a Lamborghini, and now after the speech that I gave, he said he wants a solar tuk-tuk. And for me, this is the impact that I was dreaming of. It's more than the money that I can get from this project. And yeah, I don't know if I can find this picture. Yeah. So this, like Rob said, this has got more about a social angle and to it as well. And I'll just continue. So
Yes, sorry, I interrupted your the technical part of your talk. Please continue, Naveen.
yeah, it's okay. So my goal here is to basically, in this presentation here, is to break down a project. You know, a project has different angles and looks very complicated at first. The more you break it down, the more you have a methodology towards it, the more it will be more efficient. I broke here on the right side. I broke it down into stages. One is R&D, yeah, and the last one is definitely testing. And you know, every time you make something, you test. You make something, you test. You build. It's like building a house. You start with a small brick, build. And then you make a slab on the roof, and then you build on the second floor. You know, and then this is a little bit of technology. I think most of us are aware, or it's basically, the idea is to use the same idea, like Rob said. I wanted to also make a kit where people can actually buy this kit, and more like a IKEA plug and play solution. They will have a manual and they can just plug and play. So for that, you needed a motor, gearbox. A gearbox was already from the tuk-tuk, and I wanted to make this electronic box, which doesn't look so fancy here in this picture, but this was the whole idea to, for example, this picture here, I wanted to make it like a small kit, compact kit. And yeah, that's about my technical presentation. Anyone has any questions about my presentation? Technical or?
There are a bunch of questions in the chat, so maybe Rob and Yash,
Sure.
you can help to questions and comments in the chat.
Sure.
If we've seen all the images, should we go back to the main group? Can we unshare, Naveen, or have you got more to show us?
You can share me if you want. I don't know how to do it. So.
You can just close it.
I can read out the questions from the chat if you like.
On the top, Naveen.
On the top here?
Yeah. Okay, I got you.
Okay, so
okay.
There's lots of questions coming through the chat. Okay, so I'll read them out. I'll try and précis them for you. Okay.
Sorry.
This is notes from Yash. Harshita, from Harshita is asking, from your journey, what aspects of transport do you think were the most crucial, and what other difficulties did you face? Also, out of all the places you traveled through to get into London, which ones offered the best and which offered the worst in terms of transport?
Okay. There was some hearing issue. I think I should get my speakers on. Can you please repeat it again?
Harshita wants to know. Harshita wants to know about any difficulties you might have faced, and what was the best and the worst experiences.
Okay. So basically, so every had different various experiences. I cannot say which is the best and which is the worst. I mean, if I consider losing my wallet, getting stolen is the worst. Yes, it is. But I know I also actually liked it. In the sense, not really liked it, but now I enjoy it. And I saw it as a great opportunity for me to be flexible and to be adapt in a new country. And also what I really liked was the hospitality in Iran was just amazing. The food in Turkey was really good, really top. And so I have different, and in Germany, I was quite impressed how they think and they plan. It's just quite impressive. And
great. Tanushri wanted to know how about the road signs. How did you experience this changing of signages between the different countries?
To be honest, India is the one country which has got nothing to do with these road signs. I mean, a lot of if once you leave India, Iran, and other countries, you have this pretty much similar. Internationally, there are more similar road signs, more or less, and some of them they're not completely designed perfectly. For example, there are some road signs, I think I found it in Turkey. They're not self-explanatory. Coming from India, and these are not self-explanatory, but in the West, they have a norm, they have a specification, they have this thing, and they expect people to know. So this was also a challenge. Yeah.
And Joel is talking about sustainable transport and how it relies on the integration of modes, but the fragmentation of limited capacity modes in developing countries threatens urban transport sustainability. And he asks, what frameworks are possible for integration of informal transport modes in developing countries? So
Yeah, very, very good question, because I am also involved working on this some consultancy, especially in developing countries, where we're trying to understand which models. Okay, let's say we want to like more sharing models, because we want to go back towards having, instead of having independent owned vehicles, we want to use more shared vehicles, and more hop to more, what do you call this, shared vehicles. Like, you know, in Bangalore we have the 7-seater tuk-tuks or autos. This would be the best solution, and it has to be controlled by a software, and this is the way I think.
Main screen. You put me on the main screen. Can you put Naveen back on, please? Thank you. Great. There's a couple of questions here from Arzu. Arzu, do you want to ask those personally?
Sure. You know, Naveen, you're talking about kind of being both an artist and an engineer. And I think that I was wondering how those two ways of thinking kind of affected your process, as well as the two ways of acting. And if you can say a little bit about, you know, the dialogue in your head about the artist side and the engineer side, if there was something that you could share with regards to that.
Sure. Firstly, don't consider myself an artist, but this project made me appreciate art. I was more into engineered focused way. Thanks to my friends who pushed me into this and this project. So the different aspects of artists and the conflicts that I always had now is, you know, as an engineer, I always want to process, like I explained to you a few minutes ago, I have a specifications, I have process, and I want to follow that. As an artist, it's very important to think outside these boundaries that we have. Why should we use, yeah, of course you have to use the boundaries of physics, but yeah, and this is a conflict that I always have. You know, an artist can draw something like, for example, a future vehicle with wings maybe, or with only one wheel, but in engineering it's not quite possible. So this is always this conflict that I have with my friends and me, and after that it's me and myself.
And Arzu, I think you were asking about his current
yeah, you had mentioned, Naveen, in the beginning you had mentioned that you had stopped working in the space of solar powered cars. And I was wondering why, and you said that you would share a little bit about that, and I was wondering why and what was your thinking around that?
Sure. So I came here, like I said, to join a startup which is developing a solar car. And I left for personal reasons, nothing professional reasons, not professional reasons. I also feel solar, having, you know, after traveling this journey, doing this journey, I think for me, very important thing, having a solar on the roof, it's at this point of time doesn't make so much sense, because I have a lot of data collected, and if I see all the data, that how much sun that I got and how much weight I had to put to carry this distance of 10,000 kilometers, it just didn't make sense for me. And instead of having this solar panels on top of a roof, which is stable, and you can charge your vehicle from the solar panel, that would have made a lot of sense. This is my personal opinion about this now. And yeah, and
are there manufacturers who are really seriously looking into the solar power?
Yes, there's a lot of work needs to be done. It's in a very primitive stage. There are a lot of technical issues. For example, what if a car crashes? You know, you can't always change the roofs or the body if it is made with solar. And what if how can you make the solar in a 3D space? You know, you don't want to have a square aerodynamic ugly looking car.
Yeah.
So that is also a challenge.
Solar paint. Do you know anything about that?
Sorry?
Solar paint.
Yes, we did a bit of research, but there was not much that you can get out of this. Not much of energy efficiency, let's say like this.
So we have lots of questions coming in thick and fast. So can I read them out? From Arzu, actually, she wants to know what is the future, and she talks about Michael Moore's Planet of Humans. If you've seen that, what's coming in the future?
I've not seen Michael Moore's Planet of Humans. I'm sorry for that. My future would be, I would really love to go with something called electric, but how this electric is generated is quite important, and that would be more hydro for me, or solar. Yes.
And Shastra wants to know, I'm just going to pick out the ones that don't seem to be repeating. Shastra wants to know about how you planned all of this. She wants to know about the planning process before you set off. What kind of documentation you needed, what it cost, just something about how the planning for the journey.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. And I evolved. I didn't say I planned now and I stuck to it. This is a project. I was very new, and people around me, no one had this experience, you know. So it was more trial and error basis. But I did have a starting document, which I said was writing down the specifications, going through each part list and seeing how much will it cost, if I can support myself or not. You know, once you have this cost list of these parts, if it is expensive, is it a way to get a cheaper one, maybe a second hand, or made by someone? You know, this is how I started the planning. And regarding my journey as well, of course, I opened a map and I said, okay, what is the shortest way to go to London?
Because obviously through Pakistan, you had to go by ship from Bombay to Iran. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there was some visa issues at that time in 2016. So this planning of journey was this, and to make this journey, like the documents that I need, definitely there are a set of things that you need. I need my personal visas for all these countries. I need something called a visa for my vehicle itself. It's called Karnati Passage, where you can take your vehicle to other countries. So this is once you know, and also the most important thing, approvals from Indian government. So to be on the street. So once you think about what you need, want to write down, and then you start breaking down, and then you can do it.
What would give me a ballpark figure for how much you had to do the whole thing?
Sure. Right now, if you want to convert, I mean, I would say
Project Tejas from beginning to end, from building and then your journey. Are we talking like $10,000?
Yes, I think 12,000 euros.
12,000 euros it costs.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, 4 years of my efforts and a lot of R&D and three prototypes. Yeah.
And we have Sami here who wants to get his own auto rickshaw for himself. And, that's his aspiration. And do you think we can create a world where people can have their own solar powered tuk-tuks for personal use? Sami, do you want to expand on that as you're there? Sami?
Okay, so before I came to Bangalore, my entire plan was to like take an old vehicle and sort of like repurpose it, because I wanted to like commute from my place to college without like having to like walk that much. So the initial plan was to get a gypsy, those like the army sort of jeeps that they have. But that couldn't happen because I couldn't get an auction. But then I had an idea of getting an auto, which was like hilarious to people because they're like, okay, if we go clubbing, we're gonna take you, and like you can just drive us to places while we're like, you know, in the in the bag, just like having a good time, whatever. But I sort of looked into it for a while. Stuff that was like different. Plus, I thought like an auto would be much cheaper than like I anticipated. So that was there. But it was really intriguing to like think about like having an auto rickshaw or a tuk-tuk for personal use. So
yeah, there now, like I said, there's a startup in Bangalore, 2 or 3 startups where you can convert. You can bring a old vehicle and they will convert it for you. And there are a lot of online kits available now. I don't know how many of them are government approved. You can even convert your gypsy. You can convert your two-wheeler. I think there are many now.
Someone has just said there's one called Lightyear here.
Yes, Lightyear. Yes, Lightyear is a Netherlands country, and so Netherlands startup. They were quite impressive. I had a chance to meet them 2 years ago, and we worked together in some research for solar panels. They're doing pretty well, I think. There's one
Joel
girl here who is raising the hand. This.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, you said that you kind of left working on solar power because you thought that it's not as yielding as you want it to be. So when we talk about green energy and making this whole thing electric, I recently read about a bike that Yamaha has been working on for it to be completely powered by a water-powered engine. So, how about we combine, like, instead of making it completely solar, completely hydro, how about we combine different modes of power, different sources of power to yield more amount of power, not to be dependent on one thing. So, suppose if you're going through a desert, you might not get water. So, that time the sun is like pretty bright and solar might help you. And in a patch where there is rains and there's no sun, then water might help you. So something like combining energies.
It's very interesting thought. I never thought about it because for me, I think energy is always comes in conserved. I mean, you cannot create and you cannot destroy this law of physics. So it's yeah, quite interesting. It will be really helpful. And for hydro, there's a lot of research, and I also think this hydro is one way to go. It all depends on a lot of other things. Not it's like commercialization, marketing, and supply chain. So for example, if there are a lot of consumers of solar, the world tends to go towards solar. And if there are a lot of
uh, like we can make people understand that what we're trying to do is not depend on one source. We are trying to not depend on one source, and that's
sure.
what we're doing when we try to move from petroleum, from fuel that's generated from the earth. So if even though these are inexhaustible sources, but still not depending. So if you're saying that people are more focused on solar, we try to go towards solar. So if we make it a more multidisciplinary, not multidisciplinary, but like a multifaceted thing,
Yep.
then promoting that among people might be a really good
Yeah.
way to.
Yes, my only comment to this would be instead of having this technology on your tuk-tuk and you're having, for example, like I said, like you're having a solar panels on top, I would rather have solar panels somewhere in the station. For example, Bangalore and for example in Mysore, there is no sun and it's all raining. Maybe they are charging the batteries with this hydro, and I just go to Mysore and charge. So I don't have to carry this technology of charging with me. I just need this is what I would say, my comment to it.
And I
Can I
think
just
that
just one moment? Can I just say that we have 5 more minutes of Naveen's time? Can you please all put your cameras on? Can you please start your videos when if you can, so that Naveen can see who you are, and then maybe you have a chance to ask the final question. So switch your, please. Thank you, Saran. Priyal, are you there? Hashita, Vanishka, Aparna? Yep, great. Denise coming on. Snehal. Okay, just if you can switch on, please. Yeah. Have some nice
One comment, I see that the Lightyear, like I said, yes, I don't know if it is close to launching. I mean, it's still in the development stage, and it's not so cheap. It's about, I think, 100,000+ euros for this vehicle. So this is also, yeah, you know, when the new technology comes, it's always expensive, and then slowly we hope that it will change. And that's why I said at this point it's not feasible.
Naveen, I think that lots of people have brought
Yeah,
this up
sure.
in different ways, where one is saying, okay, you know, there's a systems approach to this. And given your work as a consultant with companies that are thinking about business potential, they're trying to think about this in a systems way, or as, you know, as you said, the more uptake there is, the more market potential there is. And at the same time, you as an artist engaged with something that was just singular, just one example. And, you know, Priyal also brought this up. What is the, you know, in some ways you went with the kind of a jugaad principle, you know, like you take something and you rework it for yourself. And oftentimes we're countering many big corporations that take on a huge market share of one thing, or push everybody in a solar direction or everybody in a fuel direction. So I was wondering whether you could say something about, just given that you are a consultant in this area, you know, how much of it is happening in this DIY, small scale, decentralized manner? And do you know about projects in that way? And how much of it is really being pushed in this market kind of direction?
Actually, the biggest, I would say, there are lots of DIY projects happening. I mean, because they can't be heard because they don't have a voice, a loud voice to be heard. I mean, they don't have a marketing campaign. They don't have this. So, uh, yeah, there are timers, there are big rallies that go around here where I live in Munich. Yeah, and I don't know the exact percentage. I cannot say because this happens in small pockets. In other way, another thing is about the big drivers, for example, Mercedes or BMW trying to change this sphere, or new startups like Tesla coming into it. This is a big impact. This is a bigger impact, I would say. And yeah, and for example, companies like Lightyear, startups like Lightyear, and I think in Bangalore we have Ather, bike company. They have a bigger impact.
What about you, Naveen? You've left the industry for the moment. Do you have a personal project you want to? You're
No,
thinking.
I have few couple of DIY projects planning. I mean, still in the consult. We are in still one in Kenya. We are looking at same tuk-tuks. They have a lot of Piaggo Apes there. So it's in more R&D phase. This is the guy who wants to. He has a lot of tuk-tuks in his garage, and he wants to see how we can go ahead. And yeah, one of the reasons I mean, and what else have converting Vespas, old Vespas into electric is also.
Great.
I'm
You're
involved with.
really interested in this issue of conversion. This is your
Yeah, for me, I would say, because instead of making a new one, the two I don't like two things about the whole mobility thing. Is one thing is you're using 2,000 kilos of SUV or whatever to carry 80 kilos of a person. I think it's a bit of waste. So and second thing I don't like is it is electric, it is sustainable energy, but to make this you have to use new materials again, and for that you're actually spending more energy, and which doesn't make logical to me. So I rather prefer to use reuse the ones that have been already done. Yep.
And so that's what you're actually engaging with, your two projects. One is in Africa, and the other one is
in Zurich.
In Zurich.
But I have to say, but this is not my main job. I work as an engineer at Hilti, like I said. That's my main job.
Yeah. Okay. We had a final question about government policies. Do you have any views on whether government policy could be changed to make this process a little better?
It's a very big topic because I personally know I've traveled lots of times to government offices, and it was even companies like Mahindra Reva, the owner, Chaitan Maini, is found it really hard to change these policies. So I'm actually not so very well informed about this. Sorry to say this.
Another students ask about interpretation of India. Do you get back to India at all and
Yes,
travel around?
yes, I do. I have one project going, two few projects in India as well. One of them is a proto village in Hindupur, close to Bangalore, where my couple of my friends, they are trying to make a sustainable village. So that's one project.
Could our students know a little more about that, because they are
Sure, I will write it down here. It's called proto village.
village. Oh, yeah.
Proto village in Hindupur.
That's very
Close
interesting.
to, it's I think Tekaludu, it's called, the small. Yeah, I was involved with this project, and I don't know what's happening currently. And there's one thing that
I mean, obviously the lockdown's going on at the moment, but maybe in
yeah,
future, or 50 interim, maybe a visit could happen. Maybe that would be really interesting.
it's a really a lot going on there. I mean, the way they started off with one house and now they build a community, it's just amazing.
Very interesting. Proto village. Yeah, Yasha's put the website up. Thanks. Okay, I think this is your final chance to raise your hands, apprentices. Otherwise, we're going to have to say goodbye. Any more?
I think range anxiety and lack of charging infrastructures. Yes, definitely. That's one from Srikanth. You're right, Srikanth.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, anxiety, range anxiety. Yeah, that's interesting.
But actually, it's not range anxiety, it's just awareness, because in a day, you don't go more than 80 kilometers. No one in the city, you don't more than 80.
I'd like to make a statement about that, in that we all have to start thinking in the future about slow travel and slower travel.
Yeah.
And range anxiety has to be a thing of the past, because we don't move around so much. I think after this crisis, we have to think about new ways of thinking about how we move around slowly, rather than trying to get from point A to point B as quickly as possible.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, Bangalore does his job for making you go slow.
Yeah, this is true. Okay, so anything, Arzu and Yash, do you have any final points before we say goodbye to Naveen?
Thanks a lot, Naveen, for bringing your experiences and moderating the class also, Rob. That's all.
Thank you. I really appreciate, and I see, I wish you guys really good luck, best wishes. And I think that this kind of a talk is very important, and I'm really appreciate for this.
Thanks, Naveen.
Arzu,
Yes,
you
thank
wanted
you
to
very
say
much.
something? Sorry.
Somebody wanted to say something? Who was that?
Arzu wanted to say something.
No, I just wanted to say thank you. That's it. Yeah, thanks.
Ciao.
Thank you,
Greetings
Naveen.
from Munich. Bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank you.
Naveen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Naveen. Thanks very
Ciao.
much for your time. Amazing the project now, and
Ciao.
what you did before. Thank you. Goodbye.